Hello, everyone, and welcome again to another Top Agent Commercial Wednesdays. Very exciting group this time. A lot of times we talk about how to build be a good commercial agent, grow in the commercial industry, but this time you're going to meet and learn from top commercial agents, not only how to be a top agent, how to grow their brokerage operation, but these leaders, influencers have grown multiple businesses. So it is that seed and kernel of learning this craft of commercial real estate to eventually growing multiple businesses. So I'm really super excited to have Karl, Paul, and Robert Kramer. And I'll just say they're all icons. Karl, he just joined, but he'll be an icon. I know what he produces. We all grew up in the same place. But Karl, since they popped you up first, can you share a little? I know in the background we were talking. You actually were in a different country for a while before you came back to the States. So if you don't mind kind of sharing a little bit about yourself and your journey, starting in commercial real estate.
You're gonna make me feel old now because every time I tell the story, people are always asking me, "Hang on, how old are you?" So thank you, James, for having us. Obviously, you were one of the reasons. Actually, when I started doing my research on EXP, you were the one of the early YouTube videos that I started watching. So you actually influenced me over 2.5 years ago to make this transition, which has been great. Yeah, a little bit of a brief background. I got into the real estate business over 30 years ago. Essentially back in Toronto, Canada. We were developers before we started doing the brokerage, syndication, investment side of the stuff. We were essentially brokers in Toronto, sorry, developers in Toronto, which I did that about for 10 years. So I started off at the age of 19, moved to Dubai, saw the opportunity as an emerging market to be at the right place at the right time. That's my philosophy. My point of view in life is always about being at the right place at the right time before everybody gets there. So always seeing the emerging market. We're seeing that with a lot of different countries right now, right? So moved to Dubai, became an investor out there. Eventually, it led me to buy into Remax franchise with a local partner out of UAE. The market took a big collapse, as you know, globally in 2008, which led me to come to California and just keep on doing what we're doing, right? We're addicted to this business, right? Once you get into the commercial real estate business, I think the numbers and the excitement, the network that you built, it's really, really hard to get away from this business. So it's our passion, right? Obviously, I didn't start off as my own company, in California. I was an agent uh, before doing any type of growth and scaling to open up my business. But it's been a blessing, like I said, with the current organization that we're with and the scale and our vision to grow this company to be, to be in a position to have 5 offices in the next 2 years.
Carl, thank you for sharing. The next thing you kind of mentioned joining and being part. I always say I want to introduce the poster child of EXP commercial, Paul Frank. Paul, how many times did you tell me no, 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 never, never? So first, can you share, your background? How did you get into it? Because I think you were born into this industry.
Yeah, I'll try to be brief, but I was born at South Lake Tahoe, California, which is a gambling town right on the Nevada-California border. My dad was a pit boss and my mom was a cocktail waitress. My dad realized that he didn't want to raise a family in the gambling industry, so he started dabbling in this real estate thing. And I was blessed to have a father that literally took me everywhere from a absurdly young age. I think I was, I don't know, 5 years old when I had my little pin-on tie and went everywhere with him. Unfortunate part was that the time I got to spend with my dad was during some really bad economic times, which turned out to be a huge benefit. I mean, I remember vividly him dealing with 21% interest rate loans as a little kid, and that actually saved me back in 2006. Quick story: when I was 7 years old, we were in a meeting on the south side of Golden Gate Park. I remember it like it was yesterday. Walked out of that meeting, and my dad, who was 6'5", 265, tight end, he looked down at me and he said, "Hey, never do a deal for the sake of doing a deal." And he said that to a 7-year-old. And I lost my dad back in the 90s, but in 2006, when everything was going crazy, that kept me, made me walk away from the table because I kept hearing my dad say that, never do a deal for the sake of doing a deal. But from an experience standpoint, most of my career has been in the development arena. I've been a broker since I was 18, but most of the focus has been on the development side. So it gives me a bit of a different perspective, let's say.
Paul, thank you. And
Yeah.
one of the people before commercial started at EXP was Robert Creamer, got commercial. This individual was always the warmest person, always helpful, always helping everyone. No wonder he's an icon, top agent, producer all the time. But Robert, if you don't mind sharing your background with everyone.
Certainly, and sorry about the noise. They just decided to HOA come up front of my house and do the landscaping this morning. So it's in the background. But yeah, I've been. Thanks for having me this morning, by the way, and good to see you, Paul. It's been a while.
Yes,
Since our
sir.
last call, I think. But been in the game 20 years. Became a broker in 2011. Got my license in 2005 after I got my real estate degree from North Texas. Been in the game ever since. No residential. Tried it for 2 months. Didn't like it. So yeah, done that. We've done deals in Austin, Dallas, all over Texas, all over the country. I'm actually leaning into development right now as well. I'm working on my first one north of McKinney, Texas. We're looking at building 100,000 square feet of flex showroom space. We got one more round through the city, but that looks really, really promising. So, early on in my career, I realized I did not like cold calling, and all the coaches wanted me to niche down and cold call, and that's really all they were pressing me to do. And where I found my success was through residential agents. And that is always why I stuck with a KW or an EXP or a residential facing company, because of the opportunity of the referrals that I could get within the company. To this day, I get 4 to 5 referrals a week. I know I think that sounds crazy, but I get 4 to 5 a week. Now, they're not all great, but I mean, in December, we paid an agent $88,000. We're working on 2 deals right now. We'll pay at least 6 figures. I mean, so the referrals can be quite substantial once you've kind of built a name for yourself, and people want to do business with people they know, like, and trust. So I got the runway, as all of y'all do, and welcome, Karl. It's good to have you here, and yeah, look forward to the call. Thanks, Jim. I'm gonna go on mute again because
No problem. And most people know we started an HOA. You will love your HOA, Robert. So I got to show you how to get involved on this too for business owners. So a lot of people for different angles got into commercial real estate. We'll talk about the journey into other businesses they're doing. But just Karl, when you were done a little traveling, I know you're never really done, but you always visit family and everything. But when you started in real estate, how did you kind of get started, grow your brokerage team? Let's just start on that. How did you build it? Because I know when you came over here now at EXP, you had a methodical way of building your team. So can you share a little for the agents that are looking to grow and scale from just an individual to actually start building a team
Yeah.
in brokerage?
Yeah, that's a great question, actually, James. I think essentially, I had the experience of setting up a brokerage, essentially back in the mid 2000s out in Dubai, where when I started the Remax office out there, was a franchise, obviously, different business model. But I think essentially when I jumped on board with the EXP commercial opportunities, I had already built somewhat of a good book of business already. The trust was already there. I had good, loyal agents that would follow me to come on board with me to EXP Commercial. So building the trust obviously was a huge, huge factor into creating this opportunity with EXP Commercial. And having a track record. I think having a track record where people trust you, you bring value on the table with a lot of your institutional investors, or it could be your family offices, having that comfortable situation where you can tap into any type of investors, that gives you a little bit of a more motivation to go all in for yourself at this point in your career.
Thank you, Karl. And then Paul, the coach, you coached everybody literally in the Sacramento area, maybe even beyond that. But since you kind of grew up here, in the industry, you had a lot of different pieces of your company I would say from you and 35 years in the industry and business. How did you kind of, start? Because you were a developer saying, okay, why do I do brokerage? And then how did you start scaling? Because you had something unique that most commercial agents didn't want to do. Maybe Robert did, but a lot of us, I was ex M&M, And I had a cold call like crazy, maybe 200 plus calls a day. So how did you do it, Paul, that you said, hey, I got to do brokerage? And how did you kind of put a program together to grow your brokerage? Because I see many people are coming to you to be part of your team now.
Yeah, it was actually the focus in development was born out of necessity. Back in the 80s, I had a office development that I was doing and had an issue. Things fell apart, tenants left, and I had to figure out and engineer a solution to the problem. And I came up with this idea to run a commercial condominium on it, and kind of create a different mousetrap instead of, or a better mousetrap. Instead of trying to lease this space and save my rear end, I could cut it up and sell the pieces. But what I found was that the brokers didn't have the same investment in the success of this and the solution. So it was, I decided I needed to ramp up the brokerage end of it, market it myself, go door to door and pitch this thing. So that was, I think, gosh, 88 or 89 that mess occurred that made me realize that relying on other brokers, especially in those situations, was a fool's errand.
So really out of necessity that you said, look, I can do better. I can train better. Being the coach, you said, I can do this. And probably Paul, you would agree. And Robert, I think that was almost what you did when you went to run KW Commercial in Dallas, Texas, and start growing it and being a vital part, right, of growing teams and the business. So can you share a little your methodology? Because I know not everyone loves cold calling, but how did you grow your business through maybe coaching, training, and other things that I know you put together?
Yeah, sure. I mean, my progress was, I was a solo agent, probably like a lot of people. And when I joined back in 2005, they didn't have any training. I had no mentor, no coach. So they said, here's a desk and a phone. Good luck. It was a small boutique firm here in Dallas. Then went to KW Commercial. But again, there's a lot lacking that was not being provided to the industry agents that I thought was simple. They said, you need to go CCIM. You have to go an asset class. You have to do, you have to do, you have to do. And I don't like that. That's not the world I want to live in. My brain doesn't work that way. It's more of an entrepreneur. So I always try and find a solution or ways to have a different mousetrap, so to speak. I also tried to build a team, but what I found was I didn't want to grow a massive team. I wanted to try and stay in the middle. And what I realized quickly was you go to the middle and bad things happen because I won, or I had success because of my work ethic and what I did in sales and getting sales done. But when you're trying to build a team, you remove yourself from the sales role. Now you're a trainer, a hirer, and a fire putter outer.
Yeah.
And generally speaking, if you have a medium-sized team, they don't like the split. It's just, it didn't work out for me. So when I did move into the coaching world, because after I tried that, I realized, we need to create something in our marketplace that is simple. It's a ground level of education that will give people enough information to go out there and make money in the marketplace. You don't have to be a CCIM day one. You don't have to pick an asset class day one, right? Those are what in the past people were pushing through the CCIM and M&M and CBRE. I didn't like that. So I created a learn commercial model. I was selling the model, coaching one-on-one agents. They had great success. I loved it. But now I want to move into the development side, and things are just progressing along our industry, which I love. That's one of the beautiful things about our industry. If you are passionate about it, I don't care what you're doing, where you are in the world, you're always thinking about real estate. Like I'm going to Iceland in September.
Mm.
I'm going to be looking at real estate and saying, I wonder what that costs. I wonder what the rents are. I wonder what the cap rates are here. I wonder if I could buy something. Could we have any agents here? Right? It's nonstop if you're in the industry and you love it, and I love it. So
Robert, thank you. Carl, it seems like you agreed and want to add something to this of building a team, necessary, not necessary. What are you looking at?
Yeah, I think Robert actually hit it right on the spot about, there comes a point where you got to understand how much you want to scale to, how much you want to have that growth, because essentially, as he mentioned, a lot of the times I'm feeling right now that a lot of my production has kind of slowed down, where I'm more focused on building the team, coaching and, doing these trainings and marketing. And it's constantly somebody calling you that they have requirements. But if you keep it under certain guidelines that, this, I still need to do my production. I still have to, keep the engines going, right? Because if I don't keep my engines going, then the other side's not going to run properly, right? So he hit it right on the spot. It's a little bit different. I mean, look, building a team's not for everyone. I get it. It might be a characteristic, kind of a personality, if you have the personality to lead a team. But for me, it's working out at this point that I'm able to run a team of 10 people right now. I want to grow much more. I want to have a lot more offices throughout California and essentially throughout the country. But I gotta be careful because I know it can backfire on me as well. If I don't do my production, it's not gonna be pretty.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'll add, that's the point where people don't know. They think it's
Yeah.
successful when you scale too big. I would always say, Carl, you remember I had BRC Advisors, was wildly
Yes.
successful in Southern California, but that was the demise of my production and syndication. I got so much into with over 180 commercial brokers, I had to manage. I had
Yeah.
to visit each office. I had to see all these different offices, talk to our managing director, build all this. So I got out of production. And then everyone knows once you do that, you are out of production. Now you need to put butts in seats. I've learned that from my mentor at Marcus. You got to keep butts in seats. You got to really look at the numbers, all the complaints you got to deal with. So,
Yeah.
so it is, you're right, a different skill set. There's no right or wrong. It's what, like you said, Carl, and I think Rob, which choice do you want to take? So sometimes you don't need to say, I got hundreds and hundreds, because it's different, right?
Yeah.
And Paul, you want to share, because I know you had property management, you had development, right? You were doing tenant and tows, right? Projects you were building, right? To build to suit. And then also you started the brokerage. So what was your methodology? And really, did you take everyone? And when did you know, okay, this person's not for me and I have to let this person go because they're not a fit, or maybe not even a fit for brokerage, commercial brokerage?
Yeah, it's kind of interesting too in my path. I was just talking about this yesterday because I'm referred to Coach or Coach Frank, but I've been an athlete and a coach most of my life. I coached over 25 years at youth, high school, and collegiate level, so that's where the coach part comes in. And COVID just flat ended my coaching career one day over in Oakland, California at about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and never stepped foot on a field again because the world stopped. But looking back, that kind of coaching mindset moved over to EXP, because that's kind of when that whole idea was born to come and see you. I don't even know what year that was when I went to Vegas to tell you why I shouldn't do this.
3+ years ago now, believe it
Yeah.
or not.
So, yeah, I've also, and I don't know if we've ever talked about this, but I grew as we went into that downturn in 2007, 8, 9, I did a lot of different things, but I started a security company with a buddy of mine from the FBI and grew that company to 325 employees in a couple of years. It was an interesting ride, but the takeaway, for me, was to make as much money with as few people as possible. I realized that having all of these employees was not what I wanted to do, especially when you're trading time, because honestly, if you're a security guard for me and 40 years old, something went wrong in like 5th or 6th grade and I can't coach it or fix it. So as we moved into the brokerage side, I never wanted a large brokerage company. I didn't want to manage that many people. We had DRE audits for the different companies, especially property management. Thank goodness they never did the commercial brokerage arm. Random audits, not for any wrongdoing, and we cleared all of them, but doesn't bode well for a good night's sleep when they post up in your conference room for a week. And that was one of the things about this EXP adventure that was so amazing, because I can build teams and coach people and do all of the fun stuff. I mean, I've got agents that I mentor all over the country, and now we're actually expanding into other countries. And I don't have to deal with any of the stuff that I hate, the compliance, all of that. It's coaching and motivating and teaching, which has just been an absolute blessing. Literally removed all of the bad stuff. And at this point, as far as who, I help all different levels of people from CCIMs to brand new agents, and it keeps it interesting.
Well, Paul, and I know, and congratulations for John Bias, because I remember when John and you asked me to get him the exception and different people that you grew with your team. He's a top broker now, and that's exciting where we know your coaching and everything you've done, and you've learned over the 25 years. It's just fantastic. So thank you. And let's kind of transition now from, okay, the brokerage. Everyone says the brokerage is fun. Back in the day, we wanted to be a principal, right? We didn't want to just broker deals. We wanted to own the deals. But Robert, you actually own deals. You set up a roofing company. When did you start transitioning and diversifying? And what was your methodology as you started diversifying your business? I know you started a coaching, training, teaching, in between too for necessity. But from that, when did you decide to go build a kind of adjacent businesses?
I think that's how my brain works. I mean, I think some of us are just wired like an entrepreneur. I mean, I don't like sitting still. I don't like the mundane, which is one of the beautiful things about real estate, especially commercial. Everything's different clientele. And it was honestly more about meeting different people. Uh, you go to a lot of different business meetings, you meet a lot of different types of businesses and evaluate different business models as you're going through and selling commercial real estate, right? So in doing that, you meet a lot of great people. And then once in a while, they say, why don't we go on a journey together? And you just see where it goes, right? The roofing side didn't work out. It was a bad partner. Lost my ass on it, but that's what happens sometimes. Those are usually some of the biggest learning lessons when you just totally fall on your ass and lose a lot of money. You're like, okay, let me go back and evaluate what happened, why that happened, what didn't I do in the beginning to see the red flags that I see now, right? So it was a very educational experience, but I'm not scared. I'm willing to throw more darts to the wall. We had talking a little bit back about growing teams and building more businesses. I mean, one thing we're trying right now is we're trying to work either as a third party or a different company. We're trying to build or help like EXP Commercial come up with the commercial concierge model, which will help our agents. Because I had a virtual assistant, fantastic, but I was paying 4,000 a month. Do I need someone that I was paying 4,000 a month just to do stuff on the brokerage side? Maybe yes, maybe not. But what I found was going through a virtual assistant, which I created a VA affiliate program through Sphere Rocket, was I can have 4 full-time virtual assistants for the same cost I was paying one.
Mm.
And they can do CRM management, social media management, property analysis, property searches, all of those things. And I can expand that very, very fast or shrink it very, very fast. And the cost is minimal. So instead of growing a team, I'm leaning more into the what can I offload just so I can focus on my 20% and they are handling everything else that's my time, the time consumption, right? I don't want to do any of those things. And to me, it's always been, I've always pushed out, try and come up with a solution and then get that 80% off your plate as fast as possible. Because I know Paul's busy, Carl's busy. We want to focus on the money-making activities and not deal with the headaches and the fires if we don't have to. Get that automation set up. So it's been fun.
I love that. And that is important. Failure. We all fail. Carl, Paul, Robert, everyone else, right? If you don't fail, you're lying.
You're not pushing hard enough.
Or you haven't gotten successful enough to fail, right? So we all fail. We all go through, different partnership, bad partnerships. So that important. Paul, you want to add something to that?
Oh, just a lot of that resonates. What I didn't add about my security company is that I got embezzled for about $1.5 million by a gypsy, basically. So all education has a price tag. So you definitely have to have those moments. That was one of my low moments, but taught me a lot for sure.
Well, I'm glad you shared. Carl, I'm sure you had some horror stories of failure, so let's not be afraid. Please share a little.
Oh yeah, I got into the actually Remax franchise business model with the wrong partner, who was a local, as you know, in the United Arab of Emirates. And then when I got pretty much, I'm going to keep it clean here. When I got, it wasn't pretty because I had no rights to do anything with that partner. So it was a wrong partnership. Yeah, I mean, you just try to keep your failures to minimal. Like you said, if you don't fail, you're not going to know what's on the other side of the fence. So it's been a good experience learning from those mistakes.
So everyone out there listening, you're going to fail, or you hopefully won't fail, or fail a little bit, but that's just part of the learning process, you know. And as you can hear from everyone, the wrong partner.
Yeah.
Try to find the right partner as much as you can. Vet them out, right? They always say, hire slowly, fire quickly, right? So make sure you take your time to find the right partner, the right person to help you. Otherwise, you see this, it's going to be a learning lesson, and it's going to cost you time, money, and hopefully you just never give up, right? Because this is, as you can hear from all of us, a great industry to build off the base. And let's just say, Karl, with you, what do you see? What do you want to grow and build now that you have all this experience, knowledge, you know, international relationships? What are you looking? What is the next, let's say, 2026, right? End of this year, we're halfway in. What's your next project?
Yeah, that's a great question. Actually, so our goal is essentially to have another 2 to 3 offices. We want to tap into the Santa Barbara, Newport Beach markets, Ventura County, and Orange County, to expand a little bit more across the country and bigger markets where our client-based institutions are looking in Texas, in Carolinas, Tennessee's. So that was one of the things that I was really, really excited about EXP, to allow us to expand all across the country. But essentially to have another maybe 10 to 12, good advisors. We don't take on just anybody that comes across our table. Oh, here's my resume. No, I'm a high believer of quality over quantity. Because sometimes quantity is going to cost you your time, right? And time is money, right? So I want to make sure that whoever comes on board with us aligns with our vision. The vision is to grow the company in 2026 to have at least 20 to 25 advisors and start putting more teams out there all across the US. That's the goal. That's the goal. So hopefully we're on the right track, right? We are on the right track.
Thank you, Karl. And Scott, I mean, Paul, you're going to be going to Barcelona. I remember you were just trying to join to see if it's the right platform, and then you started building in the Sacramento area. Now I see you going to Texas, you're going to Arizona, now you're going to Barcelona. So besides the brokerage, and you can add some on that, what is your 2026 plan? I mean, as we're halfway through this year, what are you trying to build?
Honestly, I'm trying to remove I've become, especially over the last year and a half, a true believer in this model, and I see the potential of it. I originally just came over to simplify, and then it began to resonate. In fact, one of my moments, without getting into huge detail, but I had one retail project that I did, took me 4.5 years to get entitled, owe the bank a bunch of money, got a bunch of money into it. I've got tenants, and I'm positive and super exciting. And I don't mean to poo-poo it, Robert, because you're on the front end of that, where you still love the smell of the dirt and the sticks going up.
In Texas, we ain't got the problems y'all have out there. We're
Yeah.
good here.
Yeah.
I got 45 days for permitting.
Yeah. I was just in Tennessee and got a permit in 3 days, and it was $25. That does not happen out here. Quick divergence. I'm trying to build an office for us in one of our retail centers, anchored retail centers out here. 10,000 square foot building permit, just stamps on paper for me to build, is $587,000 for the permits for a 10,000 foot building. Anyway, what was I saying?
Get Newsom out. Yeah.
Yeah. I went to high school with him, by the way.
Sorry.
What was I saying, James? What was your question?
No, about what you plan to build. Getting out of the liability of development. Oh, you're muted.
I'm mute. You muted.
You're muted, Paul. Paul, you're muted. There you go.
This project that I did 4.5 years on, and I'm positive, this was about 1.5 or 2 years ago. Martha in my office came to me and she said, "Hey, we got these checks coming in and there's no address or escrow or anything. We don't know what they are." I said, So I went into accounting with my little avatar and I said, "Hey, I think there's a mistake here. We don't know what these are for." And they said, "Oh, that's your revenue share." I'm like, "What?" So the short story was, and my epiphany, I'm getting half as much in revenue share with no employees, no liability, no nothing, as I was with 4.5 years of blood, sweat, and tears and risk. And that was kind of my moment of, okay, maybe I'll spend a little more time on this EXP thing. But I keep getting, we've got development projects for Amazon in Savannah, Georgia, St. Louis, California. Those I'm doing with other groups, so I'm not the tip of the spear and responsible for everything, but my retail, office, industrial things, I'm trying to phase it out and spend more time in this lane, which is fun for me.
I'm glad you brought up, everyone has their own rhythm to stuff. Like Paul maybe exiting development, Robert's entering, and that's okay, right? Because everyone finds their new passion. Because I remember, Paul, when we were first talking, you would have never said you wanted to grow a team, build this way, because you were just, I just want to get off the nonsense. As Robert said, 80% of the BS, liability, all this nonsense, I want done. Paul, that's where you first came in. You just wanted your life to be easier. But now
Absolutely.
you came to a point where I want to coach, train, teach, grow, because you see the opportunity. So just to let everyone know, it's okay. But the fun thing, the good thing is find the mentor. So Paul, I hope you, with Robert, now you have a friend in Texas to start, working on something, showing them the ropes. And you just never know until you try, right? And it's okay to fail too, but try it, see if you like it. I'll just say this from what I've watched, everyone likes something different. Some people started in commercial. They love luxury residential. Some people started this. They needed to be property management. Some people did the, transaction. They love the finance, the capital market. So until you try it, until you have the right mentor that really exposes you, shares, takes you under the wing, that's how you really know, is it for you? And this is the truth. You can fail fast. Find out if you don't like it or not and move on to something else. But commercial real estate, as we all know here, it's so broad. But Robert, can you share, a little more on, maybe your development plans, what you're thinking, so everyone out there can reach out to you, work with you together, because there's more people than just here in the audience, just listening to you. If you don't mind sharing your plan.
Well, sure. I mean, my plan is, I don't like all the masterminds right now talking about outwork everybody, just work more hours. I mean, look, I'm a single dad with 2 kids. That's not on the table. My job is to be a good dad, good father. They need that. I want that. I love it. So that's why I'm big on offloading that 80% because I want to do the things that I need to do with the time I do have in order to spend time with my kids. I'm not willing to grind out 80 hours a week anymore. I did that, right? So I'm working on more things like the development where I may actually hold on to it, have that passive income, which is also amazing with revenue share and now affiliate with the virtual assistant company and all these other ancillary things. They're all adding up to building kind of a world where I can have VAs running the ship below me. I'm managing the VAs, managing an organization, and I have more free time to go do the things that I need or want to do with my family. So that's why I'm doing what I'm doing right now in this phase of my life. I mean, probably like everyone here, I'll never quit working, right? But do have a goal, and the goal is to get to 100,000 a month. And so I can be working in Greece for a month. I can be in Bali for a month with my kids, or I can do whatever I want because that's what life's about. The experience is not grinding it out and not being with my kids, right? So that's where I am.
Robert, I love that you said that, because a lot of times we try to make the money to say we get the time. We never get there. A lot of people, because we're constantly grinding. And then the kids, right, they grow up because, for the fathers, right, out there and the Mother's Days, right, that we recently had, the time, right, and to watch them grow up, because they said more than, what is it, 70, 80% of your time is spent certain ages, especially when they're in elementary school, the time with your family. And I always say, don't forget our parents, our mothers and fathers, right? They did their best, let's say, I don't know everyone's story, but it is important, the time, Robert. So I do 100% agree. The friends and family, as we all get older, just a cup of beer, a cup of coffee with somebody is more precious than sometimes the big stuff, right? The material stuff. So I love that. And Carl, let's just start as kind of a closing before we ask questions to everyone else. What advice would you get, you know, through all that you've learned? What advice would you get to people? Just any advice that you can think of.
Sure. I mean, for somebody that's looking to get into the commercial real estate or just generally in the real estate industry, one thing that I highly advise is you gotta have a mentorship right from the beginning to set up your foundations the right way. If you don't set up your foundations, unfortunately, things do end up taking a wrong turn without the right leadership and the right mentorship. So definitely be coachable, have some mentorship behind you. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. You know, you're going to make mistakes, right? Nobody's born to be a great, a high producer right immediately. So don't be afraid to pick up this call because there's a lot of magic in your phone. There's a lot of magic within your sphere. There's a lot of magic through your social media contacts. That's one of the things that I preach every single day. You got to be able to talk to people. Our job is to be out there, network, talk, 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 talk. And like Robert says, leave the 80% of the other stuff to VAs and to your digital creator team. You can't handle everything. So just, go out there, have a mentor. Don't be afraid. You're gonna make mistakes, but you're gonna learn from your mistakes. The opportunities are unlimited in this industry. Unlimited.
And before we ask questions, but Karl, Paul, and Robert, please put your contact information so other people could reach out to you. I've saw some requests to connect, and this is what we use this time for, virtual networking. But you might as well use this time network, make some new friends, new contacts, and relationships with each other. So I'm happy to let people post too, in the audience that are here. That's why you show up, right? Definitely show up so you can kind of build new relationship. And I always say use this time to get to know at least one new person every week. If you can do it, once a day, make a new friend. You'll see your business definitely increase. Like Karl says, it's a contact sport. Make more contacts, build more relationships. But
Yeah.
Paul, as you were, coaching, training, teaching, having some core concepts of what it takes, right, to be successful. What would you share and knowledge of your 35 plus years experience in this industry and then different levels, right? You had pretty much a wide view, not just a limited view in this industry.
Yeah, the big differentiator, and it's cliche, but it's discipline, for sure. I mean, you get lots of people that are hot and cold, and there's the tortoise and the hare story comes to mind. And on Robert's point, I'll tell you this. I learned a long time ago that busy is a subjective state of mind. There are not too many people that ever tell me that they're not busy. In fact, some people sit there on the phone for 10 minutes telling me how busy they are, and I'm like, you'll never hear me say I'm busy. In fact, I had one of my mentees back in Texas, and she was trying to time block and figure things out. And what do? I've got to drop the kids off to football practice, and I just can't accomplish everything. And I said, well, you're asking the wrong person, because I'm the guy that you're dropping the kids off for practice for football for 3 hours. So it's definitely a mindset. Parkinson's law, if you don't know it, any task will fill the time allotted to fill the task, and overcoming that busy mindset and removing that from your vocabulary is important. But discipline above all else in everything that you do. From first thing in the morning, my routine is exactly the same from 4:30 in the morning on every single day.
Paul, I love that. Discipline, routine. I know people hear it, but they don't practice it. And then they wonder why they don't do well. And you're right. Busy on time and hours doesn't mean you're productive. Those are different things. And it is said, right? And the adage probably has some merit. You give more work to the busy person because they find the time, right? It is.
Oh, yeah, I've sat on lots and lots and lots of boards and chaired capital campaigns over the years. And, when you go out for talent or whatever for a board, oh man, I'm busy. Well, the reality is you don't want the person that's not busy. If you're busy, that means you're a doer and you're getting things done. So that's your person, right? Somebody that's not busy and has time all over the place, unless they're 80 years old and retired, is probably not the one going to get it done for you.
And we know of plenty of 80-year-olds, they're still working and climbing on roofs and fixing things, right? And we're like, why did you? But it does keep you young. I've seen so many people retire, not retire, or unfortunately retire, and then they're not here anymore because you have no purpose, no passion, nothing to do. No one says you have to grind, as Robert says, maybe 60, 80 hours a week, like when we were younger, but you do have to find something to do. So Robert, to kind of close out before we ask questions, what's your piece of advice since you've trained and mentored a ton of people and got referrals, and you probably heard the whole same thing, but what would you share with everyone?
I mean, getting started, I would take a disc profile test or at least understand the metrics of how your brain works. And then, I push down people's throats the top three things, which is educate, lead gen, and follow up. I just pounded that on repeat because those are the only three things that matter. If you can matter those,
Yeah.
rest will fall into place, right? And people think education, I have to go to classes, I need to go to CCIM. No, do not get analysis paralysis. Do not go to every class. You don't have to be CCIM to start. You just have to start. But by starting, get that foundation level of education. What asset classes are there? What does a triple net lease look like? What is a gross lease? What are our market rates? What's the cap rate? Just get a level of education. Go find a person in your marketplace you can bounce ideas off, whether that's a company or the person, and then focus on lead gen and follow up. The real money's in the FU, right? The follow up money is where it's at. And that's why you need someone to help with that, like a junior broker or an assistant or a VA, someone like that to manage that for you. But educate, lead gen, follow up. Those are the most three important things you can do and stay in discipline and consistency. In the beginning, you do have to grind. So in the very beginning, if you can, in your 20s, especially into early 30s, if you can just spend like 3 months of working 40, 50, 60 hours a week and just focus on those first three things until you start getting yeses, you'll have success. If you do those things properly, you'll win by default.
Yeah.
If you don't, you're going to make excuses and you're going to flop. And someone like me will coach you out of the business if you have a good coach.
And James, I'm going to double up on that real quick.
Please.
To Robert's point of as far as that education, what I see all these kids, people coming into the commercial space, they are focused on and I don't want to poo-poo CCIM. That's great, but for some of these people, it's like drinking out of a fire hose. It's just too much. But the focus on the technical aspects of commercial real estate, I've literally got kids with Ivy Leagues degrees that are far, far smarter than I am. They have no network, they have no people, and they can't do anything with that. Whereas I have, like Cole was playing for the Dallas Cowboys. I taught him to go network, and he brings the deals in and just passes them off. He has very little experience in the real estate area, but he knows how to network, talk to people, and drag the fish in, if you will. And people seem to focus so much on the technical skills, and they don't spend the time on building that network and lead generating as much. Not even lead generating, but building those relationships that will lead to it. Because you can team up with Karl or Robert, or you can find somebody in your market that will prosecute a transaction with you. Don't be scared of them, but go out and build those relationships so you can drag the fish in.
Karl, you wanted to add something?
I think as Paul mentioned, you got to have some people skills, and people skills is one of the most important things. Like the gentleman just said, people skills, very powerful. Got to be able to go out there, talk to people, be presentable, walk the talk, walk the walk, talk the talk, right? And I think both of these gentlemen, obviously they've nailed everything. I think we have a lot in common. And like you said, Robert said, you just have to follow up with people, don't and get yeses, and eventually it will happen. Eventually it will happen, but you just have to be presentable and talk to people. Network. That's how.
Network.
Yeah. I mean, me and Paul, we were just in Vegas, and I think me and Paul we spent how much? 2 hours on the bar. We were talking.
Yeah.
That's all we did, right? So it's all about networking. All about networking.
Isn't it surprising that the people that are successful or look successful do the same things?
Yeah.
I always tell people, get the basics down, get it done, then be creative, then reinvent the wheel if you think you can reinvent it. But first show us you can do it.
Yeah.
Then reinvent the wheel and add it. But it's so funny where you guys are already talking to each other, getting to know each other, because that's what makes you successful. So understand with everyone the commonalities. It's not just being said over and over or an echo chamber. It is what works. And then I would say the different mentors and people and even training courses, it's your style, right? As Robert, very good thing, personality profile. You need to learn yourself, right? Like Sun Tzu, you need to learn your competitors And if you understand both, you are 100% successful. Otherwise, you're 50% successful. And if you don't know either, you're just going to lose. Go find another paying job because you're not going to do both
It's
of it
not
well.
for
So
everyone. It's not for everyone. This industry is not for everyone, right? A lot of people come into it because it's been portrayed to be easy, especially with all these reality shows and all that stuff that's, oh, this guy's gonna make $500,000. Oh, selling sunset. No, it's not like that. You got to work your butt off. You got to go through the trenches. You got to struggle a little bit to really understand the unlimited opportunity. But it's not easy. It's not for everyone. It's not.
hey,
Right?
Carl, I know most of them because, of my Beverly Hills office. So I got to know them before they got famous. They made more money on the TV shows later than
Yeah,
production.
yeah,
They
they
were
do.
just a
Yeah.
show person
Yeah, yeah.
later.
And that's what portrays this industry to be like, oh, it's easy. I'm going to do a couple of reels, 1.7 million views. I'm going to do. I mean, look, if you want to really be in this business, you got to understand it takes time. It's not overnight success. It takes literally 3 years to 4 years. You got to struggle. You can get there quicker, right? And with your follow-ups and your calls, lead gen, and be out there network. Yeah.
And before, just one piece of advice, everyone build your LinkedIn because that's what you need for commercial. It's a new way with social media. So really build your profile, put content out. Don't worry if it's not right, Robert. Perfect. No paralysis by analysis right now. Just throw it out there in the world. Who cares? You're more authentic if you screw up, stutter, make mistakes. Because if you do it maybe 1,000 times, you're going to see next year if you do it all the time, you're going to be so polished, so good, and grown your network that you'll be amazed. But I'd love to open this up to people in our audience right now. If you have any questions, you can see it's not just brokerage, it's scaling businesses, it's doing so many things. So I'd just love to open it up for anyone in the audience if you have a question for these gentlemen.
Jim, if I may,
Please, Blair.
this is a great panel and a panel that I would like to personally invite to join us on Renaissance Global because we are in need of coaches, trainers, and obviously you're very successful at it. And anybody that's just viewing this, if you have the background, the skill set to do training, please reach out to us. I'll put my information in the chat, but we need you. We've got tons of opportunities coming our way, and you've got the skill set that you need to share. And you and I both know it. If you've got it and don't share it, you're robbing the world. So thank you.
Thank you.
Blair, thank you. And thank you for, helping everyone organize, find more mentors for the mentees. Everyone knows there's a ton of mentees and Blair's spearheading, and everyone knows what SIOR means you made a lot of money for a long time. So, with that, Blair was also in his time and still a pretty high producer, good guy through this. Always will help you. So Blair, definitely put your information, reach out to any of the mentors that are speaking in the audience. Any other questions? Masters, I think you threw something out there. If you want to speak, I'll call on people.
Yeah, James, I got a sore throat, so I can't talk too much today.
Okay.
Hi, Paul. How you doing, Robert?
Good to see you, Master.
Yeah, likewise. So, next week, hopefully.
Okay. Any other questions from anyone else? Lisa, I know I see you right in front of me. If you don't mind asking a question.
Yeah, I'll ask a question. Just came to my mind. As y'all are coaching or are mentors to mentees, how are you figuring out what is your right balance of how many mentees to have so that you can focus on the things that y'all are also a part of in your organization?
I don't even know how many mentees I have. I think I added 3 yesterday. So, and I'm on the National Agent Advisory Council, and that's going to be one of my topics today for our call is how the heck do I figure out how many mentees I have? Because we don't even have a portal for that. Do we, James? Do you know? So I have a lot of them, and one of the things, I'm catching on slowly, but evergreen and one to many, there's so many things that I had been repeating, whether it cap rate explanations or different strategies. And then just started doing those recordings and putting them onto our school platform. So I would send the mentees with that question to watch that, 5-minute video, and then come back with the questions. And that has allowed me to leverage myself and, properly mentor a lot more people than I would if I kept repeating that stuff. So evergreen and one-to-many strategies definitely helps me with that.
Yeah,
Robert,
I think it
because
just
you
depends.
do.
Well, yeah, it just depends. I mean, how you want to have it set up. I mean, because you can have a school page or a Facebook page or your own community for your mentees to log in, ask each other questions because they will learn better if they ask each other questions, like the Montessori method, kind of, right? Students teaching other students, um, and then you can have the recordings and everything like that. There's no limit, but I would say if you get to a point where people are complaining that you're not available, that would probably be, when you need to shut it down or bring someone on to help you with that training, with that communication outreach. Because the reality is, like everything, they all come in bunches, right? You'll hear nothing for a week, and then all of a sudden on a Monday at 5 p.m., you're going to have 4 phone calls with fires from your mentees. So that's just the way it works out. But
Yeah.
Carl?
I've got a bit of a open door policy, whereas everybody's all centrally hubbed in our office right now in Glendale, California. So I've got an open door policy. I like to spend time with my mentees, actually talking about their business, also what's holding them back on a personal side. So it's a little bit more personal, face-to-face, one-on-one to really see what's holding them back, right? We do trainings on Friday. I mean, sorry, we do calls on Fridays for an hour. We also do a team huddle first thing on a Monday. On Monday afternoons, again, we have another training, commercial real estate training. But then essentially once a week for 30 minutes, I do a check-in call with every single one of my guys. So we have 10 right now on board. I do 30 minutes a week with each one. But at the end of the day, it's up to them if they show up or not, right? I can go only so far. If they don't show up, then I kind of get the sense that they're not really interested in doing this. So just the same amount of time that I'm putting into it, they got to put the same amount of time to me,
And
right?
Lisa, excellent question because it is the fit.
Yeah,
There's no right or wrong. Some people like to meet all the time. Some people don't want to meet at all until they call
yeah,
you, unfortunately, with the problem, but also tracking it, right? And I always say this, Paul, and I just use you as an example because I've known some of the people you brought in. It's not successful if you say you're successful. You watch your mentees become successful. That's how you know you're successful. So I usually value how you train. If you train one person that makes it, but you train 10 people and none of them made it, doesn't matter if you train 10 people that no one made it in the industry. And I would say to retrain. So let's say one day when John, and I know John is probably mentoring right now, mentoring other people, that's how you continue this tree, this continuous group, right, to mentor. So Lisa, one of the biggest thing is the fit. I always say, and Robert brought it up, the personality profile. Some people don't like one-on-one. Some people love it. Right, Carl? Some people sit in your office all day long and you tell them, get out of here, right? But this is what you need. That's why finding the right fit. And I love the property profile, the personality profile. At M&M, we had to do it to kind of see the fit. But more M&M was seeing, could you make it in this industry rather than understanding your mentor? So I do agree, learning style, coaching style, mentoring, having a good fit. And ultimately, does this person care about your success? Some people just see you as a walking around free labor paycheck. And some people say, I like this person. I want this person to be successful. Lisa, excellent question. Thank you. Any last questions for the group before I call on somebody again? Come on, there has to be some question. Someone who wants to start a business or do something.
If no one else has a question, I guess I have a second question.
Okay, please.
Um, Speaking on top of like mentorship and whatnot, since we have three excellent folks in the commercial space, like who would you say in your career kind of helped shape your initial growth into the commercial space?
Are you talking about just an individual or certain character within like the coaching side of the industry, or just generally who got us into this.
Those are two great facets. So, individual that really helped to shape your career in commercial, or a trait that you feel to share with others that really helped you personally.
Yeah, so essentially, obviously, at a young age, I looked onto my father because he was already in the real estate development side of the business. So had no choice, right? I mean, I had the choice, but it kind of just got me into the passion of real estate, commercial real estate, and just real estate industry in general. But over the last 10 years, 15 years, some of the big guys that I've been following was Bob Knackel from New York. I think he's fascinating. He's been a person that I've looked up to a lot of his character, a lot of his, a lot of his success, what he's doing. Obviously, there's tons of other, industry leaders out there. But obviously, Paul Frank, Robert, and James were one of the early peoples I looked up when I came to EXP Commercial. So those were the three guys that got me into EXP Commercial, if that explains it.
Yeah, y'all had a leg up in family members in the real estate world. All mine, I told them I wanted to be an entrepreneur, and they're like, "Holy crap! This sounds like a 34-year-old stay-at-home kid. That's
Yeah.
not going to work for us." They actually flew up to Dallas, made me take an aptitude test. It was 2 days, like 8 hours a day. It was ridiculous. But it's supposed to spit out your disc profile, intelligence, all this stuff, and spit out, okay, based on everything we just gathered, this is the most likely path of success
Yeah.
with the least amount of obstacles, right? And it spit out like 98% entrepreneurship. And they're like, all right. And then I leaned into commercial real estate probably because my professor. We had Dr. Bain out of North Texas. He used to advise the president on oil and gas leases, and he was really a fantastic mentor, educator, because he cared about you, not the education board and what they wanted you to learn. He taught what you needed to know for your future and your well-being and your goals. But one thing I did like was on that disc profile test. That's why it's so important to know yourself. You need to be able to mirror and match people and understand why they're saying the things they are, and try and understand why they're coming from, so you can help navigate around that and have conversations worth having, because we all think differently. And if you can understand where they're coming from, it's going to help everything across the board. I mean, if you're dealing with a high D who owns, he's a CEO versus the front desk lady, those are two wildly different conversations. So I can't stress how important that is.
Thank you, Robert. Paul?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my dad. And it's interesting because that path, it wasn't teaching me how to succeed. It was watching failure because of market conditions mostly, and just the struggle and the grind. We lived in 14 houses by the time I graduated from high school. So the time that I spent with him was during some really crappy economic times, and that perspective and the failures and the struggle really gave me a perspective that helped down the line for sure. And then I think, more than anything, the examples of who I don't want to be have been more important than, the people that I want to emulate or move towards. There's just been a lot of those people in the business over the decades that, okay, I don't ever want to be that person. And that's actually been far more valuable in my career.
Thank you. Thank you, Lisa, for the question. And thank you, everyone, for joining us again. Please connect and reach out to everyone, and join us every Wednesday for the Top Nation Commercial Wednesdays. And bring advice, bring what other topics you would like to learn. We definitely want to grow this into a larger networking group so everyone can help each other, leverage with each other, do business. So again, see everyone next Wednesday. And again, have a great day and a great week. Thanks so much.
Good seeing you all. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen. Thank you.
Have a great day.
Bye-bye. Bye-bye.